I did it again. I'm sorry. For those that didn't hear me, I muted myself the whole time. All right. Sorry about that. So I was talking and no one was hearing anything. I made that mistake. Okay, so it's going to be a spoilers talk. If anyone wants to come in, I've got an hour for this to be up. If no one's going to host anything later on tonight, I'll do it. Same thing over the holidays if I'm available. So come in and talk. If you've never been in one of these things before, all you have to do is go to the YouTube description box where I'm live streaming. Click on the link. It'll install Zoom. And then you would be on webcam and you can talk via webcam, or you can talk via the phone if you just want to dial in instead. Now I have to do everything all over again. Oh, man. But at least you guys can hear me. All right. That's the thing about spoilers. No one's in and telling me, hey, you can't hear anything. Okay. So like I was saying earlier that you couldn't hear, just kind of relax a little bit. It's near the end of the year. Let's not talk about how the world's burning. Let's just kind of enjoy the fireworks of the burning embers, whatever. All right. So just going to talk about Star Wars Last Jedi. What I found interesting was there's a lot of bad stuff with The Last Jedi. If you didn't see my review, it's my opinion, it bordered on like I had to really think, is it better than hey Eric, how's it going?
How's it going? Good.
Did you see the movie yet?
No.
Are you a Jedi's like a Star Wars fan? You don't have to be.
Hold on a sec. I was just getting a little set up here for a sec.
No problem.
Because like what you call it, I have some time to spare, so
Okay.
That's good.
I mean, you don't have to watch it to just kind of chime in and talk about it, which is kind of cool because we'll be going over some SJW stuff, which I'm sure you enjoy.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean it's Disney. Should we really be fucking surprised?
No, we shouldn't be.
Because of its preachy propaganda culture. Honestly, it's like they're preaching to the choir with this, like, it's just, I'm sick of it getting it. It's like hijacking our entertainment without actual real entertainment and actually without real serious messages. Not like this, like they just want to propagate. That's how they do it. That's how they really, really do it. And that's why the reason why I don't want to watch it is when I watched, the
Force Awakens.
Yeah, The Force Awakens. I thought it was like, I liked it at first, but when I watched it a second time, I just really had a different context afterwards.
Yeah. Once you start thinking about it a little bit, you're like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's why it's like I don't want to waste my money on, like, certain things. That's why I always tend to, think about I could be doing something better else with my time. I mean, I could either be playing video games, I could be going outside and taking walks and exercising.
Whoa.
I could rather do research online, or here's one thing I actually do. Like if it's a rainy day, I'll do research and play video games. Because at least I try to get out like 5 to 10 minutes out like a day. Because that really does make a difference. So.
Yep. It's good.
Or sometimes, if I'm busy, let's say if I made plans with a friend or made friends with not make friends, make plans with a family member, then I do that.
That's good. Everyone should do that. For me, watching a movie out in the theaters is kind of a rare occasion. Hey Taylor, how's it going?
Hey Taylor.
How
Haven't been to the movie theaters since 2012, and the last movie I watched was Ted. I mean, it was funny, but it was okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How about you, Taylor? What's up?
Yeah, I just watched it yesterday.
What did you think?
I thought it was good. I mean, I can understand like how there's like this like a similar metaphor of like the resistance, you know, how like the rebels
Resistance.
are.
You know,
Yeah,
I
but
never realized that the DNC they call it the resistance, right?
right. But
Against
but
Trump.
but the thing about it is, I mean, obviously, obviously that's just by coincidence because I mean when they wrote the story, that was like years before Donald Trump got
And plus,
elected.
Star Wars is so mainstream. That's why they, that's honestly how I see that they propagate it in some form.
Mm.
I mean, in my own context. I mean, when everyone watches something, they have a different context.
Yeah.
That's actually the way I actually do observe it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I want to go over a quick timeline.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, if you're in
All right.
here,
Trigger warning.
you're
This
gonna
is the
have
trigger
spoilers.
warning if you get triggered by spoilers, and it's fine. I mean, you're gonna find out at one point, but you actually have to do it. You actually had to do it and see it for yourself to actually develop your own context. That's actually. Here's one thing. I'm not really surprised by anything these days, but even when I go and spoil it, I'm not surprised. I would rather see it for myself to be surprised.
Yeah.
That's my true element of surprise.
Okay. All right. So it's gonna be kind of hard to see. It'll be on the YouTube, but there's this timeline within episode 7 and 8. So in I wonder if I could enlarge it. Maybe it might be better. Let's see. Well, maybe not. All right. So the first day, the First Order is on Jakku doing a raid. I can't even see it. Hold on. And this is where it can get pretty bad as far as like where it's being taken as far as the new trilogy. For example, the next day they focus on Rey and she's scavenging and she meets BB-8. Day 3, Finn, because he kind of defects against the First Order and he rescues Poe. They escape, and he wakes up on Jakku and ends up meeting Rey. And then Finn and Rey, they both escape Jakku on the Millennium Falcon. Right away, they meet with Han Solo, Chewbacca, and they end up meeting like loan sharks or whatever that those guys were that come on board that try to kill Han Solo. They come in and
with that big tentacle monster.
Yeah.
I mean, I laughed at it because I take it into a different context of like with me, I just think weird shit is funny. Like,
Yeah.
I have like a weird sense of humor because I do think certain things are like funny, but like the tentacle monster, I like to call it the big vagina monster.
And okay. And so they end up meeting with Maz Kanata at her place. This one, Rey feels the lightsaber call to her, and you get that flashback scene kind of. Poe ends up waking up on Jakku during the night when Finn finally meets up with Poe. That's what he says, and he gets rescued. So next day, it could be a couple days. No one really knows, but basically, Rey wakes up in an interrogation room. I don't think it's that long. I don't think like more than a day passes because she gets knocked unconscious from the Force. So they take her to an interrogation room, and this is where you see Rey use the Force for the first time. So Starkiller Base starts to charge up in order to destroy all those planets. Rey rescue Han and Chewie and Finn. They embark on their rescue mission for Rey, and this is when the Resistance are planning their attack. Rey ends up pretty much rescuing herself using the Force and just her skills from being raised alone in Jakku. The Resistance attacks Starkiller base, and during that attack, Rey defeats Kylo Ren. All in the first day of her using the
emo
Force.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, emo Darth Vader, emo Ren. So that's pretty.
I like to call him emo Darth Vader because it just sounds like he's like the emo Darth Vader.
Yeah,
it's actually that's honestly how I observe him. Oh.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, even Anakin Skywalker was the emo.
Yeah. And then, all right. So day 5, and it's still it's starting to transition between episode 7 and 8. And so basically, Rey travels to Octu, where Luke is, and last Luke to Trainer. That's where episode 7 ends, and then episode 8 begins. Kylo Ren gets healed. So him getting beat up, shot by Chewbacca, and lightsabered by Rey, he's fine. Finn gets healed. You saw him just getting backslashed with a lightsaber by Kylo Ren. He's walking around full health, full capacity. And the reason why this is all in the same day as when Rey travels to Ahch-To is because in episode 8, where it starts off, is the Resistance are evacuating their base on the planet Dakar, where they were stationed at during the Force Awakens, at least the Resistance. So what happens is they evacuate, and just as they evacuate, the base is destroyed by this huge dreadnought by the First Order. So the Resistance are being chased, and the First Order are able to track them through hyperspeed, light speed. Anyways, Rey wakes up again. Appears she spent the night on a planet, and asks Luke to train her again. And he asks him to train her a couple times, and eventually Luke does. And so she goes through one training session, then she goes into this little underwater cavern. I mean, she has to dive underwater to get to the cavern, and it's caverns on land. It's like a mirror effect. Don't know what she necessarily learns. She meets back with Luke. Luke kind of, says he's not really going to help, that he came to the island to die. Who cares that, he left a treasure map, or at least a map for the Resistance to find him, but oh well. And so they get into a little scuffle, and they're just fighting each other with sticks. And then Rey defeats Luke in combat. This is a Master Jedi who took down Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, has 30 years to reflect, probably at least 10 people who were force sensitive, including Ben Solo, and gets beat by Rey. So Finn and Rose, they go to Canto Bight on their little mission, which is about 12 hours long, I would say. Now, this is day 7, and so Rey defeats Luke in combat. This is her second day, maybe her third day, where she uses, from the first time she uses the Force. No training, no real experience, and is able to defeat Luke Skywalker. Now, day 7, from the start of the First Order chasing the Resistance, about 18 hours elapsed. I think they even say that in the movie. Rey is on board because they're going to be running out of fuel, so they make sure that they can get away, and they know how much time they have before they run out of fuel. So basically, that's how it's 18 hours. Rey ends up leaving Luke to go on board the Star Destroyer, where Snoke is at, and where Kylo Ren is at. So Rey is pretty much helpless against the power of Snoke. And Snoke is about to kill her until Rey ends up killing Snoke by sneaky, turning a lightsaber that was sitting right next to Snoke and turning it on using the Force. Anyways, so after that, Kylo Ren and Rey defeat the Praetorians, which are the guards for Snoke, and they don't even use the Force; they just use their lightsabers. And Rey is able to defeat at least 2 or 3 of them by herself. I mean, they're pretty much fighting together, but they're fighting alone. Finn and Rose leave the Star Destroyer. Rey leaves the Star Destroyer. The Resistance land on Crate and escape, with Rey using the Force to lift up tons of boulders. And it's not just ordinary rocks. These things are huge boulders.
Yep.
And so that's in basically, when Rey uses the Force, it's on day 4. So at the end of day 7, in pretty much 3 days, she defeats Kylo Ren, who's now like, I guess, Grand Supreme Leader Kylo, Supreme Leader Ren, Supreme Leader Ben. I don't know what his name's going to be. Defeats Luke Skywalker in combat, and then is able to lift up tons of boulders, and pretty much on in a span of 4 days. That's just Mary Sue. People who want to argue against that, they could come on here and talk, because I mean, she makes no bad decisions in any of the movies, Force Awakens or this one. So it's just I don't know. I'm debating about whether it's actually worse than the prequels. I ranked it above the prequels.
Nothing's as bad as that one with Jar Jar Binks.
The Phantom
That's
Menace.
like the worst of them all.
I don't know. I actually prefer Jar Jar over Anakin Skywalker talking about sand. Like him wooing what's her name? Princess Amidala. Or Queen Amidala. I was like, it was kind of unbearable to watch. I was just embarrassed for the actors. Hey, how's it going? So I was embarrassed by the actors and George Lucas during that whole scene in Attack of the Clones, and I think that's what killed it. But yeah, so what this movie ends up doing pretty much is leaving nothing to set up for the final act, the third movie in the trilogy. And even if there was something being set up, you don't really care. You just feel like, all right, things are going to work out anyway. There's nothing really, like there's, I don't know. I don't care for any of the characters. The character that I cared for was Luke, and yeah, he's dead. He was just exhausted. He died of exhaustion, pretty much.
I know. I guess he knew it was his time to leave. I mean, to me, it's like he was like a spirit the whole time. It seems like.
Yeah, if they made it so that he was like, the twist was that he was already dead and he was just a Force ghost that was, that showed up for Rey, I guess. Yeah, that would have been just better than what just happened. I mean,
and I guess that's how Jedis die. Is they just, they die of old age, of just like, vanishing like a spirit.
Well, not all Jedi. I mean, the only ones that we know of that have done that, as far as the movies in like canon in books, we know that the person who trained Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm forgetting his name right now. He was in the Phantom Menace. He became a Force ghost. He was like the first, and then the only other Jedi that have become Force ghosts was Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, and now it's Luke. So it's not like a common thing. Either there's just a certain power or knowledge involved.
I know, but yeah, and also you remember how like Obi-Wan died, and when Darth Vader killed him, he just like, as soon as Darth Vader hit him with the lightsaber, he just like vanished like a ghost,
Yeah. So at least in The Force Awakens, I didn't love it, but it was better than the prequels. I thought it was. The Rogue One is interesting, but I would have seen how Rogue One would have been without all the reshoots.
Yeah, I haven't seen Rogue One yet.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, so Jin-Ho Choi, I hope I'm saying that right in live chat. It is gonna, there's even controversy as why they let Rian Johnson get not just a trilogy, but just to direct this movie without anyone else's input. And I think I was watching and I was reading, and they Rian Johnson, I don't think he even watched The Force Awakens. He just came up with his own story for episode 8, and then Kathleen Kennedy was like, okay, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I could understand that if it was someone like Steven Spielberg, right? Someone who's just been in making, always has great stories to tell, and but Rian Johnson.
I think if Steven Spielberg did it, he would just kill it terribly.
Like kill it good or kill it like bad?
Kill it bad.
Why?
Because I don't know. It's just a lot of his movies are corny, like E.T. I thought that was kind of corny.
I don't know.
Well,
what did you like? Did you ever watch Indiana Jones?
I liked how South Park made fun of Indiana Jones, and they made fun of Star Wars and E.T. Like there's 2 episodes to watch. The episode where it says free hat. Trust me, watch it. You'll get some fantastic laughs out of that episode. And also the China problem.
Oh,
China. That's the episode that it's named.
Okay.
Well, and also the Indiana Jones. I mean, obviously they're just kind of like reenacted so bad, where it's like he's a superhero. He's unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, but
also,
I did like the
season 20. Season 20 South Park does go into making fun of like Star Wars pretty much throughout the whole entire season. So,
but I mean, Steven Spielberg, like Jaws was one of my favorites. Jaws was awesome.
Yeah. I'll give him credit for that actually, because I liked that a lot when I was a kid.
I mean, like Gino is saying, his early work is great. I think it's starting to be not as good later on in his career.
I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I don't care what anyone has to say about it. But I liked Howard the Duck movie. So go right ahead and say whatever you want. I love to hear the comments anyway.
I don't know if I don't even remember Howard the Duck enough to even care if you hate it or not. All right, so I'm going to share.
With some people go overboard on certain things, like when it comes to like fandom. Like I could kind of see common grounds with fandomism and social justice warriors in a sense, in my own context.
Yeah,
I do. It's like the fandom for Hillary Clinton and like, those like, social justice warrior fandoms are like really, really, really for Hillary Clinton, like, kind of like a brainwashing propaganda cult for culture shit.
All right.
That's actually the way I do observe it.
So while you're being triggered, I want to trigger you a little bit more, Eric.
Triggered!
There's a lot of propaganda news media that really wants you to love The Last Jedi, and pretty much anyone who doesn't love or like The Last Jedi are being labeled alt-right, and I think the best one would be called the Mary Sue.
Yeah, and the thing about it, and you have to like the rebels too. You can't like the Empire, because if you like the Empire, then you're like an alt-right, like a Trump supporter Republican.
Yeah. So here's the Mary Sue. A lot of criticism and praise has been flung both ways when it comes to Last Jedi. I personally love the movie, and while I'm open to hearing other people's opinions, some of the backlash has been, for lack of a better word, extra from alt-right groups wanting to bash the movie of too many brown people and too many women in charge in their space films, or it not being the Star Wars movie they wanted. Yet I think this is unfair to lump all criticism and just the ranting's white straight male fanboys. Well, this guy is not a white fanboy. I might be a boy. That's about it.
Yeah, well, the thing about it, the same thing happened vice versa. Like with like the original like old 3 Star Wars movie where it's like this some like black woman on MSNBC saying Star Wars is racist, you know? They like, you know, they make Darth Vader like have, you know, a black man's voice, and then as soon as Luke Skywalker lifts up his head, he turns good by being a white man. You know, he
I didn't think of it that way, but yeah,
yeah.
that is funny. Now, the funny thing is, I like to call out. It's not like total social justice warrior. It's almost like pretending to be social justice warriors, like, but not really. If you think about it, and
Well, we'll see. The social justice warriors are trying to lump their ideas into Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars has nothing to do with them because Star Wars was written long before, you know.
Yeah, but the new stuff, like if the one that I will agree with is that the women in these Star Wars movies are, they made them perfect. They make no mistakes. Princess Leia, Rey, Vice Admiral Holdo, they're in high positions of power. You know, one has more power than anyone. One is leader of the resistance. The other is another leader that takes over when Leia is unconscious. They don't make any mistakes. Everyone else does. And I think that's a hard one, because when these characters, the main character, which is Rey, who's female, that doesn't make any mistakes, doesn't learn anything, that doesn't grow, there's just nothing that you want to like. You're like, is she going to be able to do this? You know, it's not like it was like Luke Skywalker. Is he going to be able to defeat Darth Vader and the Emperor? You're just kind of rooting because you know that he can't do as much. He failed to even lift his ship on Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
He lost to Darth Vader. You know, he lost his hand in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
So it's like, how are they going to defeat not just Darth Vader, but the Emperor? And then, you know, you've got so much just like, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. And then Empire Strikes Back ended so darkly. But here you've got Rey, who pretty much beat up Kylo Ren on her first day ever using the Force.
Yeah.
You've got Snoke, who is dead, where the only one that seemed to have been able to stop Rey is Snoke. So Snoke's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what's there to fear for Rey? I mean, she already defeated Kylo Ren. She can only grow from here. So it's like there's nothing to just really be worried about as far as her character. She's gonna come through. She's gonna win. She's gonna.
Yeah.
And then you've got. Now here's the thing: you've got no one who's not white that has Jedi powers in these last two movies. So, hey, white people, you got something great going. You know, if you want white people to just be have side characters, I think, you know, then yeah, you could be angry. And then, you know, if there's like an Asian guy and a black guy and a Hispanic woman that were like, say, the only Force users in these last two movies, you've got a point. But no, if you're white and you're blaming color into this, it's not true, because what do you have? You got all the other minority characters playing minor characters. You've got Hispanic pilot, you've got black defected stormtrooper, you've got a female Asian that's like an engineer or mechanic or something.
Yeah, and you got aliens.
And you got aliens, and they don't hold any positions of real power. They're just minor characters in a big movie, and that's it. So, you know, it's more towards, it still has the, you know, the white supremacy thing going. I don't care. I love the Star Wars stories. I don't care. But, you know, white people are going to care about these minority characters in minor roles. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, I mean, just watch the older Star Wars movies. I mean, and it's not like it's a remake like the Ghostbusters. I mean, these are different, you know, sets.
So
the marketing ruined that movie.
Which one is Ghostbusters?
Yeah, but then plus they could have done more.
Yeah, like Paul Feig. Yeah. And the thing about it, I mean, he didn't want to do it at first. He was kind of like begged into direct it.
But here's one thing, they just want to capitalize off of fucking nostalgia. That's what they really want to do. I mean, with some instance it does work, and with some it's either it's a hit or a miss. I mean, when it comes down to let's see, I'll be right there.
No problem. Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, Detroit, we talked about it, but Rian Johnson.
When it comes down to these, you know, these sold, you know, very well, and they were very very popular amongst the gaming community. So
it was more about the gameplay rather than how the gameplay looked.
Right. And the thing about it, I mean, Rey, she's a white girl, so I don't see what's the whole big deal about racism.
Yeah, I'd say it's more.
They wanted to just capitalize off of social justice warrior, you know, fandom, and like, you know, having like, you know, it's like they just want to capitalize off of feminism instead of actually, you know, doing actual real stuff for real feminism, just capitalizing upon it. But I'm not being sexist when I say it, but I'm just saying it with an honest context.
Yeah,
didn't like feminism actually used to actually really fucking stand for something. It's just, you know, it's just like this neoliberal, neoconservative feminism. Like it was Hillary. Honestly, I blame Hillary Clinton for all this. You know, this phony feminism. Like she preached lecturing phony feminism. She didn't stand for actual real fucking women. Actually, other women actually did stand for something, but she wanted to use sexist fucking labels. I blame Hillary Clinton for, you know, ruining everything. She ruins everything, like a social justice warrior. This is why I like calling Hillary Clinton a social justice warrior and Obama a social justice warrior, because that's honestly how I see through all their fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and like in all the rest too, like Donna Brazile and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, like all of their supporters.
Yeah,
and it's the corruption too. They look past it. It's like the social justice warrior looking past like Hillary Clinton's racism.
And this is why I think The Last Jedi is so great, as far as people not liking it at all, is because it's getting to Star Wars has kind of been so fanboyish. It's like it doesn't matter how bad the Star Wars movie
Phantom
is.
Justice Warrior shit.
You need to like it, or you're not a true fan, or you're just called a fanboy because you find fault with the Star Wars movie. Oh, you didn't like the way it was. You're just a fanboy.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's like, you know, that's where it becomes like more like labeling, like, you know, it's starting to take that social justice warrior edge. When I actually seen that, I knew I had to get myself out of that, you know, that cult of culture. That's why I would rather be an individual, because here's one thing. When you say something, of course you're going to be criticized with it. But here's one thing. With me, when I'm being critical about something, I want something to improve. Like, you know what, when it comes to business, but not when it comes to like social justice warrior ideology. I think more business route, and I leave out anything political or even remotely propaganding. But
Anyways, you're reading it. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much paved the way for Hillary to saying she's a woman. We're gonna break the glass ceiling. No woman has ever been corrupt. So, you know, we just need a woman in office, and that's not true.
Yeah, well, why don't you look at that? Who used to be the prime minister of South Korea? She was a woman.
Someone who also, if you also look at Brazil, I think there's two other countries. I remember doing it. There's just basically a wave of corruption, and it was by women in power. And there's at least 5, not including Hillary Clinton, where they either left the country for corruption, or they were in prison for corruption, or all this other stuff. And that's fine. I'm okay with women in power and women who are corrupt getting imprisoned for their corruption. Men should be the same way, I think.
Right. Exactly. And I'm fine with women in power as long as they're, you know, a good woman leader.
Yeah, I mean, like the only argument in feminism I would say is that if men who are in power who are corrupt don't get as badly imprisoned or punished than the women in power. Now that could be like feminism. That's about it, right? You're basically, you just want male, female have equal rights. That's what it is.
Right.
But not women are better, women are supreme, women, are infallible, etc. I think that doesn't make, that's not equality. It's the same thing with men doing that. It's just, that's not equality.
Right.
So I don't know how we got to the feminism part, but
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's Eric.
Oh yeah, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Right.
say one thing that I'm really glad is that about the movie is it looks like Rey is not Luke Skywalker's father, because I remember a lot of people,
Father. You mean daughter?
daughter. Yeah, because I remember a lot of the fans were wondering about that, and to me, if they did that, then I think it would have been just ridiculous.
Well, I think it's just as ridiculous that she comes from nobody. I think they could have just planned it out a little bit better. You've got like at the end, you've got this kid using a force to bring a broom to him. No Jedi training whatsoever. Now they're just gonna have people all over the universe being able to use the force very powerfully without any training. And I don't think they've thought that through.
Well, yeah. Well, see, really, I'm kind of liking the fact that it's like it's possible that anybody could be a Jedi, because
sorry, go ahead.
And it's not just like inherited,
Well, it's never been inherited. I think the only thing that was inherited was that the bloodline of the Skywalker, starting with Anakin, was just that was a very powerful part. That was about it. But there's always been other Jedis. There's been, other Force users that are very powerful that weren't a Skywalker. Emperor Palpatine, as far as in the original, he was more powerful than any of them. He wasn't a Skywalker. And then if you go to the prequels, and of course Yoda, an alien, was also more powerful. Obi-Wan Kenobi had no bloodline relation. He's his own person. There's no relative of Yoda. There's no relative of Obi-Wan. There's no relative of Emperor Palpatine. The story of the entire prequels and the trilogy was just kind of the Skywalker, family, and just kind of where that goes. But there's been tons of other Force users out there that have been pretty good, pretty powerful. Even so in the movie, Luke was training Ben Solo along with other Force users.
Mm-hmm.
He mentions that he, with half of his students, pretty much fought each other. He killed the other half, and he also took the other half. In my opinion, that would have been an awesome story if they would just started there. Maybe Rey was one of those students, and Ben was the other student. So, I think that would just been an entirely better setup into the new trilogy than just keeping it as a backstory. When the backstory is a lot more interesting than what the actual story is, it's just that's just bad. And whoever was starting it is like, hey, why don't we just start with that backstory? Why don't we start with Luke, whatever, Ben Solo turning to the dark side, not like how it is in The Last Jedi. And Luke Skywalker doesn't want to kill Ben Solo, so he's kind of goes into exile and tries to train his other Jedi, and basically that that story in itself is just better than what we got. But All right. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit back into the sharing. So, what I like is the Rotten Tomatoes. I always go towards Rotten Tomatoes again, even though I hate Rotten Tomatoes. Like here, Episode 7, Star Wars Force Awakens. Well, I didn't love it. It was good enough where critics loved it and the audience liked it. I mean, 93% critics, 88% audience. Now, when you get to The Last Jedi, you got 92% for the critics, and then you got the audience going down to like 53%. Now there's something wrong because the movies aren't made for critics. The movies are made for the audience, because if you've got a movie where only the critics like it and none of the audience loves it, you're not going to make money. You're not going to even have enough money to make the next installment, the next episode.
Yeah, the thing about it is I don't really trust Rotten Tomatoes, because I remember when they gave like Ghostbusters, the remake, like a high rating, but they didn't really get a good profit out of it. While like Suicide Squad, they got like a low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but they made a much better profit than like Ghostbusters. So
yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot wrong with Rotten Tomatoes. I'm pretty sure a lot of the official critics are paid off. But so we've got The Last Jedi with a 53% audience score, 92% tomato meter. Now, what's very similar to Star Wars, at least in fandom, is Star Trek. Now, Star Trek is very much like The Last Jedi. If you look at the high critic score, I mean, it's not as high. It's 83% for Star Trek Discovery. I'm going to television shows, not movies. 56% for the audience score. And that's just continuation of the Star Trek universe, but in a different way. But you've got the Orville, which is pretty much where like Star Trek, where all the fans, as you can see, love it. Critics have it at 20%. I mean, it's absurdly low. I love the Orville. It's great so far, and it pays tribute more to the Star Trek universe than Star Trek Discovery does. So I in my opinion, the reason I think the critics don't like it is they probably paid a lot of these critics to not like the Orville and like end up liking Star Trek Discovery, because there's a lot more money invested in the Star Trek IP, intellectual property, than there's the Orville. They don't want something that's very similar to Star Trek making all this money.
Yeah, and they say that you can't. It's like you either have to be a Star Wars or a Star Trek fan. You can't be both.
It's all that peer pressure crap too that goes along with it. No one should even have to actually have to draw into that peer pressure, because I bought into that bullshit before and I got myself out of it. It's just like a cult.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I used to.
It's like that cult of. It's like that. It's like that cult of conformity. I would just rather be myself and just conform to myself to be an individual. I mean,
real quick, and Jinho says something.
But I'm open.
Like I mentioned before too, we both agree on it. Is if you're a critic and you're starting to rise, it's just kind of like anyone who makes videos. And you get in well with the studios, like, hey, here's free movie tickets to see the premiere. We want you to write a review, right? If you write that bad review, I don't think you're getting those tickets again. You're not gonna, those premiere tickets. You're not gonna get swag from that.
They want you to buy. Here's one thing. It's like that can't accept criticism.
Yeah.
It's like. Some people have their own different context of, like with me in video games, I have different context. I mean, there are games that other people do like, and there's other games that people don't like or don't want to play that kind of genre, or people get to select whatever they want to like or don't want to like, or whatever has interest to them or whatever doesn't have interest to them.
Go ahead, Taylor. Sorry,
I'm sorry. Very sorry.
Yeah, and I used to be a big Star Trek fan when I was little. Look, yeah, I'll show you like my spaceship I still got. See. Yeah, let me turn on the lights. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, they're just two different types of like shows. I mean, obviously, Star Trek is just kind of like, you know, in the future of, you know, just like people living their lives as a community, while Star Wars is pretty much, you know, in space, a war.
Yeah, well,
You know?
Star Trek is our future.
Yeah.
Star Wars is in the long, long ago past in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
There's no similarities, but I mean, there are similarities because it's in space and there's a lot of technology, but
and
they go different ways. Yeah. Star
like
Trek. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, you.
Yeah, Star Trek is basically not tries to go as much as like science, as realistic as it can be in some ways of like our potential and how in order to get there, how civilizations have to kind of work together, not just human ones, you know, aliens as well. There's always going to be conflict, and how do we handle that conflict? Do we handle it through fighting and war, or do we try to handle it with diplomacy and, you know, and peace? And it's not necessarily black and white as for in like good versus evil. And you've got Star Wars, which is based upon sometimes it's just there's straight up good and evil that you can't you can't handle things peacefully, and that's why there is war. And how is it resolved? And the great thing is even it's like someone always gets replaced no matter what, it seems, as far as whoever's in charge using power, and that evil or that type of imperialism keeps going. So you're in this trap with Star Wars. Bless you, whoever that was.
Yeah, it was my mom.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek. And I think that was just a dumb thing back in maybe it was in the 90s, 80, like the 90s. I kind of noticed it more as like, no, your Star Wars is dumb and here's why, or no, Star Trek is dumb and here's why.
Right. And of course they also did this like with the Big Bang Theory, like when they were all gonna watch Star Wars, this one guy dressed comes in all cosplay as a Star Trek fan, and then all the audience boos him. You know?
I never watched that show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that peer pressure of propaganda culture. It's like they want you to buy into the bullshit and just be blind. They got people in such a bullshit blind spot. Why can't people have their own context? It just wants to get rid of critical thinking in my own context.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of good with like not talking about Star Wars Last Jedi anymore. I just like so many people's points is just pointed out there in all these other videos.
People have their own context.
Yeah. And I don't know. I always felt like what's the next story? What's the next thing to overcome? What's the next philosophy on how we defeat evil, I guess, without that's kind of both Star Wars and Star Trek hit that same note. It's like, how do we defeat the bad things in the world? Is it by doing the same thing as what the bad people are doing, or do we do it a different way? But the different way has always been more difficult, of course, because it's also something that's never tried before. Because everything in the past, every part in history has always led up to the present, and that this present is always we're still fighting evil. We're still fighting bad people. We're still fighting all the things going on in this world. How do we get to that point where we overcome it? And the interesting thing about Star Trek is, as far as the human civilization, they figured it out, but they don't really tell us how we got there. They kind of show us by how we interact with other civilizations and other other aliens. Star Wars, on the other hand, deals with, all right, say you've got all the power. It's kind of like a superhero movie based in like a Star Wars in the like a high tech universe, which is cool and on its own very interesting. But the thing is, now you've got Disney, who also owns Marvel, that they kind of explore the same thing with Thor Ragnarok, and they're gonna and with Guardians of the Galaxy. It's so it's going to be kind of boring to have that aspect now, because it's going to be so widespread.
I would just rather I would, like, with me, I would just rather stick with what actually entertains me. Or everyone has their own different source of entertainment.
Right.
And plus, with some people, they enjoy like gardening, and that's like great. I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, also another thing I gotta mention about the movie is, I kind of thought it was kind of annoying how they kind of did some like repeats of the original like Star Wars, about like how Kylo Ren says like "join me," the same, doing the same like actment of, to Rey, of like what Darth Vader did to Luke, saying like "join me," and together we will rule.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of thought there was just some kind of like repeat reenact actions of just kind of like the original Star Wars. But I mean, but for the most part, I thought it was really good. I mean, there was like some flaws that could have been better, but I think I thought it was
as far as that point. Yeah, I would have liked it better if, say, rather than Kylo Ren wanting Rey to join her or teach a new student, is he wants to start everything fresh, get rid of the old, start everything new. Is him trying to just pick up where his father left off, Darth Vader, and what Darth Vader was doing was killing off all the Jedi. I think what would have been great is Kylo Ren is finishing what he started and kill off every Force user in the galaxy.
Right.
And you would see him. I mean, that was one of the favorite things that people wanted to see in the prequels, was Darth Vader actually going to all these planets and finishing off each Jedi that escaped from the Jedi Temple or Jedi Order or whatever, and see him battle out these like renegade rebels or Jedis. And that would have been fun to actually watch him actually going against and finding all these like maybe these people, these Jedi that escaped from Darth Vader, and their kids, that they're training, and that they're little kind of like how like martial arts kind of breaks off into like, no, you can't teach these kids how to fight, and then they move to another area and they train in secret, that type of stuff. That would have been great, just to see Kylo Ren just destroying anyone with the Force.
Or and just how people break off to different religions because the one that they were with, didn't work for them anymore.
Yeah, like you see offshoots of Jedi Order, like different types of order, different types of stuff, different types of ways that they use the Force, not just necessarily fighting with lightsabers, not just like lifting rocks, maybe or thought manipulation, maybe just kind of expand your creativity. And I think that's what fans really wanted, is just to see something creative and original, but just kind of have the same types of themes as far as like central to the original trilogy. All right, I feel like I'm done. I don't think you guys are going to see episode 9 of this, because I think a lot of people have just kind of turned off. As far as,
I mean, I'll be willing to watch it.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'll be waiting until I'll probably be waiting until it comes out to rent, or it's just something to do where it's like, all right, I'll just watch it because I'll see how they ruined it. And then, but I think that's kind of better, because you're, as a fan, your expectations are, the next Jedi movie is going to suck. And if they actually do something that's really great, I think there's going to be like a lot more support saying, Oh yeah,
give
forget
credit
what
where it's due.
yeah, you're gonna be like, okay, forget how bad Force Awakens was, forget how bad Last Jedi was. Episode 9 was the best, and then here's why. And I think that would be great to see it happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen. So I've got like maybe 10 minutes, but anything you guys want to talk about? I think I will try to, because I know a lot of people are gonna be busy. I'm gonna be in Omaha sometime next couple days. So if James isn't hosting, or Christian if he's around, if he's not gonna be hosting, Eric if you're not gonna be hosting or you want to host, Taylor if you want to try, you never given it a shot. If you want to try hosting one, you guys can.
Okay.
And if not, I'll just host one up. It's not going to be pertaining to anything specific. It will just be like an anything goes.
Okay.
But has anyone watched any good movies lately besides? No. All right.
I would rather watch old movies, or movies that I really do like,
Yeah.
and just fall asleep watching to them.
That's exactly what I did last night. I just watched Star Wars, A New Hope, and I was staying up just to watch it, and I just fell asleep to it. And I was like, it's what I always used to do as a kid too.
Because that's the only thing that actually lulls me to sleep. Whenever the TV's off, I'm awake. See? Because I programmed myself. Okay, TV.
I know, or just like to read a book,
Like when I read a book, it keeps me awake. It actually does keep me awake, even when I'm tired and somewhat incoherent. It keeps me awake because I'm actually doing something, not watching something.
No,
I mean, my body works in a strange way. Like it self-programs itself. Like it is odd.
So what you guys think about the James had the governor guy who's running, the Green Party candidate running for governor in California? What'd you guys think about him?
I thought James did a fantastic job.
I mean, what'd you think about the candidate? I mean, James did do a good job.
I hope that he gets in.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just kind of replying to the chat.
That's okay.
Huh. Ooh. Oh, interesting. All right. Sorry, I got distracted. So
oh yeah.
So Disney bought out some stuff from Fox, like the Marvel Universe stuff.
Yep.
Like, what do you guys think about that? Do you think the movies are gonna be better, or it's just gonna be worse because Disney owns it?
Well, I mean, Disney bought out Marvel long ago, and
Yeah.
I think it's I'm not really noticing that much of a difference, really. The movies and like comics.
Yeah. Like I feel like if like the Marvel universe, I think they're in it to make money until they become such a it's like the IP. It's like Star Wars. You're gonna watch no matter what because it's Star Wars.
Right.
They're gonna try to do that with the Marvel universe. Like any Marvel movie, you're gonna watch it because it's a Marvel movie. And then they're probably gonna start messing with it and really making it having a message that they want to present. So who knows why, whether it's control or what. And then they
just want to control our entertainment. That's the honest context of the way I do see it, and I don't like that. It's like a form of censorship in my eyes. That's why I don't even really want to bother with it these days. I would rather do stuff on my own.
Yeah.
You mean like so you think all of Hollywood is doing that now?
Well, I mean, it's
in
just
some
like,
certain context.
I mean, it's a method of, yeah. I mean, if Hollywood is, I mean, they're in it to make money. They're also in it for like control, creativity, um, and then if pretty much big if Hollywood is very pedophilia ridden and sexual harassment ridden, they're gonna want politicians in their pocket. They're gonna want control. It's you're just as big if you're in the movie industry than if you're just as big in like the casino industry, Trump, or just as big in a drug industry, or just as big in a big oil industry. You know, you've got tons of money. You're basically an empire on its own because of a resource. And so it's kind of like a Game of Thrones as far as in our world without the fantasy stuff. But everyone wants a big piece of the pie and just enjoy their mega riches. And they don't want any type of revolution occurring where they're going to change the way things are going. They'll never want socialism because they're going to be, they're millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires. They're not going to want to be socialists. Right. They want capitalism to stay. They're going to want people to pay for things. Because if people don't pay for things, they don't get the money.
Yeah, and seeing that's also something I noticed with like Star Wars. I mean, like even though like in the older movies they defeated Darth Vader and then they're like all happy celebrating, and now it's just all this happening again. So it's like it seems like the rebels like didn't make the world a better place like they hoped.
Yeah, or it was pointless. Like it would have been better just to see what happened. Is the First Order basically the rebellion being in control, and the rebellion actually evolving into the First Order? And so now they're like the resistance is actually just basically resisting the rebellion that came into power. Like that would have been an interesting arc.
And it makes me understand why Luke Skywalker just wanted to live on his island as a hermit, because of like how the rebels failed to like, you know, live in prosperity.
Yeah, I mean, but or like we don't know anything about Snoke. Maybe it was just because maybe there's actually someone more powerful than the Emperor, and that was Snoke, and he just pretty much took over. I mean, like people's fan theories, ourselves, our theories, our ideas, our imagination is actually better than what's out there. Like imagine Snoke, it's Luke defeating, having Darth Vader change back to the light side and kill Emperor Palpatine, because he's definitely not strong enough unless he goes into the dark side, and he's not going to want to do that. So then there's the new threat, which is going to be, say, Snoke. It's like, well, I'm not powerful enough to defeat Snoke, so what I need to do is gather more people who can use the Force, train them, and we'll fight Snoke together. Like that would have been a better story. And then how that failed, it could have been just more into the future. That could have been episode 10, 11, 12 or something like that. What Force Awakens started now. Gosh. All right, we gotta stop talking about Last Jedi. All right. So I'll see you guys later tonight.
I might be. It depends how busy I am, and it depends what I'm doing. I might be on. Okay. Like it's coming close to Christmas, and my mom's coming. My mom's coming here today in a little bit. I'm gonna go help her out with Christmas stuff and cooking, and get stuff done. I might be on tonight.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think James is hosting. I missed last night, so I fell asleep. So I'll see you guys around. I mean,
all right.
All right.
Guys, take care. Have yourself a good one. If I don't see you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus, Happy everything, or Happy every day.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.